you've probably used many of these things yourselves. When is a brochure a good thing? When is a mail shot a good thing? It depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, a brochure tends to do something which is much more high level, right? So it's like, this is who we are, and we do all these exciting things, and this, that, and the other. It's not necessarily actually going to address somebody's specific needs or wants, right? It's all about we're brilliant at what we do. The mail shop might be a lot more focused, on a particular need or want that we've identified and that we have the ability to satisfy. These things obviously they have different cost implications, and for different organisations, I did a thing for the CIM on Saturday, a little exhibition thing for them, and somebody came and said, "Well, why is the CIM at this event?" I said, "It's a very good question," and we had, and basically it's because the CIM is Chartered Institute Marketing is seeking to actually create a bigger profile about itself, at this point in time. So that was the reason for actually being at this particular event. And as it turned out, we were actually able to help, a couple of people. So it did actually work for us in that context. But sometimes, people will go to places because they think that they have to. They'll turn up to events because they think that they have to. Sometimes you do have to go to these things because all your competitors are there, and they become self-fulfilling prophecies. Nobody ever does anything, right? Nobody is. You don't get any business out of these things, but it's, they weren't there, at this one. So, and you get to a point, and it's quite often in marketing, is that, when they decide to do something which is different to the competitors, and there's a situation historically with, like Procter & Gamble and Unilever, two big, consumer goods companies. And they had this sort of situation, if we didn't advertise, could we reduce the price? And as we worked out, it cost about 40p a box was their advertising budget. So if we didn't do advertising, could we slash the price by 40p and still earn the same amount of money? And they never did it. None of them ever did it, because they're always actually frightened, right? Of, would the other guy follow suit, or would they do something different? Right? So if we stop advertising, the fear would always be that their competitor would take up those advertising slots and just kind of go for it. So, how do you go about it? And these, issues, as I said before, but it does come back to having a good understanding about what your marketplace actually is, and that is based on research. We'll look at some of these, briefly, some of these the other P's there, the people element. All businesses obviously employ people. The quality of the people that we have in our organisation will help to determine how we actually work within our marketplace. And it comes from a number of different ways, right? So and again, it was mentioned by the lady from Sage. If you've got somebody on the phone, right, and it's positive, it's outgoing, it's whatever, you're actually getting answers to your questions, then that's great. But is it the fact that within our organisation we need people who can actually process documents quickly, right? You've got somebody who's really good at doing that. There might be, the worst person you could ever think of to put in front of a customer or a client, right? But if they're really good at doing the bit that they do, then that's great. That's what you need. Or else you don't do the second bit. Do we have people who are good at customer service? That actually, can give answer people's questions. They are knowledgeable. They are helpful. If they don't know the answer, tell them that you're going to find the answer, right? But then actually do what you say you're going to do, and all that kind of stuff. And how do we, do our people actually give us competitive advantage? Is it, if you've got, sort of client-facing businesses, it actually comes down to things like the personalities of people and things, which actually might be a competitive advantage. I would take Max Clifford. That's a perfect example. For his business, he is the competitive advantage. The other 10, whatever. But people come for him and not for the other 10. And again, we have, all businesses have processes, like one way or another. So even if it's filing, right, there's a process that's there, right? Do we do it effectively? Right? Do we do it in a way that actually, helps? Years ago, there was a friend of mine who was an accountant, strangely enough, and he worked for a very large pharmaceutical business, one of the top 3 pharmaceutical firms in the world. And they did an analysis. They were trying to work out why their business was more profitable than their next biggest competitor. And when you get to large scale, what you do in your business and what your competitors do will be fundamentally the same, right? You'll end up with the same costs, you'll end up with the same processes, you'll end up with the same, the same ways of business. And they'd actually identified that the only reason why they were like marginally more more profitable than their competitor was actually a small difference they had in their accounting process. And it's just the way that they actually, process their daily information. And that's saved them about 3 times more than their biggest competitor, whatever it was. But it was, there are, different processes within our organisations. And, how can we make efficiencies? How can we save money? That's a question for you, right? Can a service be experienced before it is delivered?
Good customer service.
It's okay, right?
It runs, through an organisation before you've even interacted or purchased anything from that, from your first contact.
Okay. I mean, that's the question. It must be, right? I mean, you must be able to somehow or other experience service, otherwise you wouldn't buy into it. You take something like cosmetic surgery, right? You like to think that, you actually go in there because this person's or this organisation's reputation is already out there, and that all you're going to be doing is becoming just another part of that good reputation, right? So, because after the event, obviously, it's a little bit more tricky. Are services more risky than products for consumers?
Not necessarily.
In theory, they shouldn't be. In practice, they probably are, because it is a lot more difficult to evaluate. You get into the tangibles and the intangibles.
Become more personal.
Yeah, it becomes more, absolutely. So it's when you get, which of course is an intangibility. With the product, it's either looks like it's supposed to look. It's 76 centimeters long, or whatever it is, and you've only got one that's 75. Then it's wrong, right? But with the service, it's slightly different. You get a solicitor says, well, it'll take 2 hours to do this for you, right? And then he charges you for 2 hours and 6 minutes. Then okay. So we have these tangible things that people will look at, right, in terms of physical evidence. How is the product presented? How's the organisation presented? And that's probably more of an issue for service-based companies than for product-based companies. And finally, we can actually look at a summary of the things. So we take the 4 main areas, and say for most folks, it's actually trying to determine what this is. Because when we determine what this is, that's actually some of the others really fall out of there. But we'll go back to the slides that we had at the beginning, where there's a customer sits at the middle of it, and that's the person that you've got to keep in mind. Because unless we actually know what this person wants, and we keep track of the changes of what that person wants, then all of these things will fall out of kilter, and will either be spending too much, charging too little, having the thing in the wrong place, not getting it to them, and all of those things will cost us money. We kind of run out of time, but that would have been an interesting little exercise to look at. So, there you go. What would you do next? A bit of food for thought. You can go back to your organisations and think, well, actually, where the hell do we start? And but a lot of it really is, at times you've got to go back to basics and think,